Give it to me like.
Hello everybody. This is Luis from the Associació Arcade in Cornellà de Llobregat, Barcelona. We're enjoying the Barcelona Pinball Tournament 2023, and we're continuing to speak, to chit-chat with some of the attendees. And now we have a little moment to speak with our staff. And why is that? You'll say that. So I said I'm Luis, and I'm here with Timmy. From Hungary, and also with Uri from Sant Martí de Provençals.
Hello.
And so now we will continue to discuss different pinball scenes in Europe because, as I said, Timmy is from Hungary. And also we will discuss with Uri a little bit how it is to organize a tournament like this one. But first, Timmy, welcome. And for those who don't know you, if you can introduce you a little bit yourself and what are you doing and why are you so fond of pinball?
Very good question. Hi, nice to be here. Thank you for the warm welcome. On camera and off camera, everybody was super kind and welcoming when I joined the association, so that's really good. My love of pinball comes from my father. I think like many of us, I went with him to a bar when I was small. He was drinking the nice beers and I was playing on the machines. And it was a really nice memory that I returned to a lot of times growing up, even though there was a big period that I didn't play. But it was always something to think of fondly. And when time went by and I remembered that I want to get in contact with pinballs again, first I went to digital. I found an application that you can play on a computer, Pinball FX, that you can play. And I was like, this is really cool. I really enjoyed it because they gave a different vertical to the game. They really utilize, I think, well, that we are in a computerized space and balls can fly and turn into flames and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But I really missed the physical part also. So I started to look into where can you play, and I actually found a museum in Hungary, in Budapest, a pinball museum, which had 150 machines. So it was a huge collection, and it was a very nice experience to go there. So that was the kind of first contact, second time. And then when I moved here, I found a bar with a rock bar, actually, a really cool place, where they had some machines.
You're talking about Bollocks Bar?
Yes.
Okay, we all know this one.
I love them. Really cool.
I think Uri also knows, right?
Yeah. I really love them because the whole atmosphere is just so cool, and I could leave my friends drink beers the same way like with my father, and I could just go crazy on the machine.
Cool.
And from there, I found a way to the association because I was like, okay, maybe there's something here too, and I was super happy to find out that it's possible to become a member. So here we are today.
So welcome and thank you very much for being here and for helping us. And we were discussing before this interview, we were discussing a little bit what are the similarities or the differences between the history of pinball in Hungary and in Spain. And there were some shared elements, like the fact that you were saying that your father was in the bar having his beer and you were playing. I think it's a shared history also here. Pinballs were pretty common almost in every bar in Spain, right?
Yes, la similitud entre Hungría y España, por lo que nos comenta Timmy, es muy parecida, sobre todo en cuanto a tema de licencias. Parece que tuvieron problemas para poder mantener los pinballs en los bares, como aquí pasó también en su momento con las máquinas arcade por un tema de licencias, que eran relativamente caras. Por suerte aquí en España las vídeo y pinball hace relativamente poco fueron liberadas y pudimos disfrutar de los bares un poco, pero fue esa época sombría en la que muchos pinballs y muchos bares desaparecieron.
So we were tracing this similarity also with Spain, that there was that dark period that they almost disappeared. So in the case of Spain, at the beginning of the 90s, they passed a law and they established a difference between gaming machines and gambling machines. And according to what you said before, it was not the case for Hungary, right?
I'm afraid that's correct. I think in Hungary, all these machines got lumped into one category, and it's a challenge because while it's sensible to limit the access to gambling. I understand that, but pinball is, I mean, we all agree, is a different category, and it's really sad. And now that I was trying to catch up on the history of the pinball museum, I could see that they were running into this in the recent years too, and having very contradicting opinions, even from the government level. Like when they opened the museum, they got a special exempt to be able to run the museum as not a commercial activity and as a separation from the rule. But then a couple of years later, the government changes its mind, or actually it's the tax authority in Hungary who suddenly wanted to assign fees that the museum was not able to produce because it's not to gain money, right? So I think the struggle is still happening, but I read now that they are open and they still operate, so that's
Cool.
good.
Good for them. I'm curious about one thing. You mentioned at the beginning that before touching actual pinballs, actual hardware, you used to play Pinball FX.
Yes.
And actually, if I'm not wrong, it's developed in Hungary.
Yes, correct. Which
So-
I didn't know when I started playing. It was so funny. I was playing
Zen
for once.
Studios, they are
Yes,
called, right?
yes. It's hilarious. I was like, yay!
No, because in our podcast, in the association podcast, we've mentioned many times the tables that they have added. We discussed about Indiana Jones. and
Every update I like to speak
try
about
it and
in our podcast because are really good emulation of the real pinball, and I like to try. I like the physical pinball, but there is a reason to play this at home, because the emulation is very accurate.
so we can state that Magyar emulation runs quite well, right? Magyar, Hungarian ones, Hungarian
Sí.
folks. And I'm also curious. So I also want to ask, were pinball produced in Hungary at some moment in history?
Ooh,
Or
I
they
know
were
that
on
I
import?
know of. Actually, I was really surprised to find out here in the association that there were a lot of tables produced in Spain. I don't think so, because then I think I would have run into it, but I can look into and find it out for you.
So for you to know, and correct me if I'm wrong, at some moment Spain was like the third producer globally in terms of
Wow.
pinball machines.
Yeah,
right?
or the second,
Or the second.
First. Depends of the.
We are talking about the 60s and 70s, maybe.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Uh,
awesome.
Con todos los fabricantes que estaban relacionados con las máquinas expendedoras y en las que hemos encontrado documentación acerca del mundo del automático, que se llamaba, que había una revista del sector que estaba relacionado con la venta de cigarrillos, elementos varios, en las cuales en esa época se introdujo el pinball como juego de azar en muchos bares y localizaciones de España.
So this boom actually was linked to the fact that those companies that end up by producing a lot of pinballs, they started as vending machine companies and also to coin-op companies. So again,
Nice.
linking back to the...
En una España de posguerra,
Mm.
de los años 50 aproximadamente, ahí es cuando empezó todo. Y España era, bueno, pues era número 1 o 2 después de Estados Unidos en este mundo.
Maybe the fact that there were so many producers, it was after the war and so on, because it was difficult to import them, so it was easier to produce those
Nice.
actual machines.
Sí, en el podcast lo hemos comentado alguna vez que había alguna cierta relación entre los estadounidenses y España. Y bienvenido Mr. Marshall y todo esto, que venían los barcos a bases españolas, americanas. O sea, venían a España en bases americanas y a partir de ahí empezó esa relación y a conocer pues todo el tema del automático y de prendas de ropa y de todas las novedades. Y después de la guerra civil, pues aquí se introdujo una industria, no solo la importación, se empezaron a fabricar aquí máquinas originales.
So if you're curious, or if someone in the audience of the English-speaking audience is curious, there's a book called Bola Extra, La historia del pinball en España, by Chus Algora, that actually traces back this history of the Spanish production of pinballs and so on. But if you don't mind, let's move on to the present time. It's weekend, and instead of spending the weekend, I don't know, on the beach or walking around, we have decided to spend the weekend in our club's premises, because we are organizing the Barcelona Pinball Tournament 2023. And maybe now we can speak a little bit as staff members, as we are. This is the biggest event that we are organizing. And at some point, Uri, you decided that the staff needs to be a little bit coordinated, right?
Sí,
How it goes?
sí. En relación a los años anteriores, este año hemos intentado organizarlo de otra manera, todo el tema de la gente del staff, para que no sea tan caótico, porque gestionar un evento de 84 o 100 participantes no es lo mismo que una de 30. Entonces, se planteó de esta forma: organizar grupos de personas o miembros del staff que se encarguen de cada parte del evento, como Timmy y Luis, pues que tienen un inglés envidiable. Y bueno, eso nos ayuda mucho por todo el tema de personal extranjero, de participantes extranjeros, para que se sientan como en casa y no sepan español. Además hay gente que se encarga pues del bar, de reparar las máquinas, la gente del punto de control, súper importante. Como son tantas horas, son 3 días de evento, entonces pues se necesita bastante gente para que puedan ir sustituyendo unos por otros y no acabar reventado. Entonces este año pues bueno, lo hemos planteado así, ¿no? Hacer como una especie de staff oficial y bueno, repartir las pequeñas partes del torneo entre todos los socios voluntarios de Arcade, que esto se hace sin cobrar ni un duro y por amor al arte, ¿no? El tópico, pero sí. O sea, si no fuera por la ayuda de los socios miembros de Arcade, esto sería imposible.
So to sum up a little bit, this is like, as I said at the beginning, it's our biggest event, and the intention, at the end, we are a non-profit club, and the intention was to make things good. And Uri was saying that we needed to officialize a little bit, to make official these staff members, this staff crew. So, and again, we are all volunteers. We have very important people at the control point, people at the bar, people like you taking care of all the foreigners, because actually we have participants from France, Finland, Italy, the States, even so many places. And it's part of this work of the association that we are all part of it. So so how is your feeling since you joined to Arcade? Do they treat you right, or?
They treat me more than right. I mean, I was a little bit self-conscious, and still am, about my not really good Spanish. But I was like, this is the time for me to actually join the first local thing and actually practice my Spanish. I know I'm not doing it right now, but I'm trying down there. Everybody was extremely kind. Like, honestly, from the beginning, from the first WhatsApp message or email, everybody was super, super nice. And the same with the organization of the event itself. So everything, or like the communication that I was part of, was on WhatsApp, and I was trying to follow what's going on. And whenever I had a question in English, I always got an answer. But I think it was very nicely done. And I also like how things are dynamic. So we have an idea, like in every event, on what needs to be fulfilled. But we are dynamic on the fact that, okay, if we need someone else helping here or there, then we just adjust, and I think it looks everybody is happy, so it works.
Cool. So guys, we have work to do. Actually, we
Yes.
have to run streaming. We have to run this tournament. So again, thank you very much, both you, Uri and Timmy, and thank you very much also to you. We will be continue this series of interviews with all the staff members and the attendants, and that's all. See you in Cornellà, the place to be. Ciao.
Thank you.
Hello.